Good morning, good afternoon, whatever it is for you, I hope you're having a fantastic day. My name is Zach Shomler. This is the Desperately Dating Podcast, episode 10, and I'm joined by my wonderful and wise stepmom, Karyn. Hello, Karyn. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
Today's episode is all about, we're calling it, I think, roughly, lifestyle and shared dreams. But I want to start today with maybe a conversation about the idea that, because we always talk about fit, and we're expanding on how fit matters by talking about how it's more than just partner traits, but there's some lifestyle things that have to make it work. But I want to just start by having a conversation about the idea that there's not really a template. There's not really a perfect, like you and I were talking the other day, and there was an idea thrown out where you knew people that were potentially married but living in different places. Mm-hmm. And like society says, you shouldn't do that. That's bad. Mm-hmm. But also, if it makes them happy, why does it matter? Mm-hmm. And I think often people that are dating and we get so caught up on what other people think and how other people do things, we forget to do what makes us happy. Mm-hmm. And as long as, I think that's the question you have to ask, does my relationship make me happy? Is the compatibility, is the relationship, is the way things are going good for me and make me happy? It doesn't matter what other people think so much as how do you feel about it? Mm-hmm. And I want to just have a conversation briefly. You had this idea thrown out there like, let's give people permission to do it their way, whatever way works best for them. Because what I don't want to do, and I think what you don't want to do, is scold people, do it this way or this way. And there's only one way to date.
Right. Or one way to be in a relationship or whatever.
We just don't buy into that, right?
No, not at all. Where's the fun in that? That doesn't take into account that we're all individuals with different needs and wants. And
Yeah. I think what's interesting though, and with where this conversation could go and where I think we want to end up is that I want to talk about lifestyle compatibility because we started there, and I just want to, again, give everybody permission. Do it how you want. Do it the way that works for you. And I think part of that is you got to find and do the introspection and the work, journaling, to figure out, hey, what lifestyle do I want?
Yeah, and that's a big question, and I feel like it's a big question that's often overlooked. People don't think about that, don't think in those terms about what they want their life to look like, what they want their life to feel like. We've been counseling people to think about, in great detail what they want in a partner, what they want that person to look like. But what do you want your life together to be like? Those aren't always automatically the same thing. And I think the risk is then you get into a relationship and you're like, whoa, this is not where I really wanted to be going. Like a huge example would be, say you marry somebody, it seems like a great person, and then lo and behold, you want to have kids and they don't. What do you do with that? I mean, that's a huge lifestyle disconnect. Yeah. Hopefully you would have thought about that before,
absolutely.
Partnering up with a person, but I don't think that always happens. Sometimes there are assumptions that are made that, well, of course we're going to have kids, or, of course we're not. I think another one is how people approach work and what place work has in their life. That's another can be a huge disconnect. Yeah. Are you a person that lives to work, or do you work to live? And that's really different.
I really want to piggyback off that because I work in sports. Like sports are a big deal to me. And I think for most people, sports are fun. There's something that they do outside of work, or it's part of their life. For me, I spend 10 to 12 to 14 hours a day watching football, writing about football, talking about football. And my girlfriend currently, I mean, she knows who Tom Brady is, but
sure. Yeah, but that's about my extent too.
Who doesn't though, right? Like,
yeah.
And she doesn't really know the game of football, and that's honestly a huge relief to me.
Yep.
Because when I go on dates, we go to get dinner, we go for a walk, we go for hiking. Like, honestly, I don't want to talk about sports. I don't want to talk about the NFL draft. I don't want someone to ask me questions about the Cleveland Browns or the New England Patriots. I want to just enjoy my time away from sports with her.
Right. But, like we had said before, though, if things were different and sports wasn't your work, it was more like really important to you socially. Like, say that was your whole social life revolved around sports. You love to go to games. You would travel to go to games. You would watch, catch everyone on TV. If your partner wasn't kind of on board in the same way with that, that could be a problem.
I saw a really cool couple. My dad and I flew to Cincinnati to watch the Patriots and the Bengals play because I wanted to watch Tom Brady play before he potentially retires. And there was a couple next to us in the stands that were from Boston that had flown. They grew up in Boston, but they lived in Texas. But they flew up together to Cincinnati to watch the Patriots play the Bengals, and that was a date for them.
Yeah.
Like, oh, that's
they're both
sweet.
Into it. That's part of their lifestyle.
And she was yelling and had chili, and I was like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah, because they're both into it.
I think a lot of guys, that's the dream. For me, that's not the dream, but
right.
But yes.
Because it's work for you, but yeah.
I think another lifestyle compatibility piece is, my last relationship. I'm going to start with this actually. In my current relationship, it's really great. We'll make dinner at the house, and then we watch a movie. And we've had so many quiet nights, and we'll go for a walk and then come back to the place and have dinner and hang out. And it's very low key. We don't go out very much. We don't really go out for drinks. And because that's how we are. We really would prefer, me personally, her too, like having the night in. And in my last relationship, I would get in trouble. We're in again? We're watching a movie on the couch again? We're having dinner again at the place? It's like, well, that's the lifestyle I want. And there was a disconnect where we wanted different lifestyles and different experiences as a couple.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. It's so funny. It just sounded there like you were describing your dad and I, the part about, just wanting to be in and cozy inside. I mean, that's totally us too.
I'm willing to go out, but I don't really want to.
But the other bit that we are compatible on, and this maybe is taking us into the old introvert extrovert territory, is that, we're both introverts. Hopefully that's not a secret to your dad's fans, but anyway.
I think it would shock a lot of people.
I think it would, yeah,
like,
actually.
What?
But we do like to go out to events, like that event that we went to last week. That was super fun. But we both now recognize that we're probably not going to want to go out for the next couple of nights. We're going to want to just stay in and be calm and happy, which is great. I mean, I feel like we're just super compatible that way. Another thing that I really appreciate about your dad and how our lifestyles are compatible is that we both have a strong need for solitude. And we both respect that in each other, and we get it.
Yeah.
So, for example, he's gone this weekend. He's taken this fun trip, it's work and pleasure, out to the Oregon coast. And I could have gone, and I think that would have been great.
Yeah.
But I was really feeling like I needed some time by myself at home, and he completely understood.
Yeah. You were welcome.
I was welcome,
obligated.
but I wasn't obligated. Yeah. And he honestly was looking forward to a little solitude for himself, too. So it just worked out.
Because I've seen weekends where you do go with him. I know there are times where you go, and this weekend you're like, hey, I want to be alone. And it wasn't a big deal to either one of you.
Yeah, yeah. But, I was talking to a girlfriend a little while ago, and that's actually where some of this content came from, was she found it really mind-blowing, this idea that you could be in a relationship and not be together all the time. And now I don't know if that's truly like what she really, really wants in her heart, or it's what she's been told that relationships are. I don't know. I didn't get into that with her, but it kind of blew her mind when I told her, well, I actually think Stephen and I probably could live in two different houses and be in a relationship and be okay with that. And her mind was just completely blown. Because to her, it's that you do everything together, you cohabitate, you always go to bed at the same time, and, just it's a lot of togetherness.
It's interesting. A friend of mine, not a friend, how do I even put this?
An acquaintance?
No, it was actually a fan, and it wasn't very kind.
Oh.
They sent me a video of my ex-girlfriend at a bar doing karaoke.
Why?
I don't know, but it was a cool moment because I was like, oh, she looks really happy. I was like, good for her.
Okay.
Like, that's the experience she wants, I think. And I remember there were so many disconnects in that relationship where she'd be like, I want to go out to bars. And we didn't communicate very well. And it's like, I was always like, well, go to a bar. Do it. Go out with your friends. Go. I'm like, I'm working tonight. There's football on. I need to work. Go to a bar with your friends. Like, no problem. And I think looking back, the experience she wants and I think wanted was to go out with her partner to a bar.
Yeah.
And I didn't want that experience. I'm not a bar guy. It
Yeah.
doesn't really I mean, occasionally, but
not like every night. Yeah.
No, and it just and it's football season. I was working, and so I think her and I wanted just different experiences in a relationship. Period.
Yeah,
and it was actually a kind of a sweet moment. It was like, what that? Why was this person? He literally sent me like, "Is this your ex-girlfriend?" I'm like, "Yeah, but why is this being sent to me?" But then I was like, "Well, good for her. Like she looks happy. She's doing karaoke with some guy on the stage, and she looked like she was having a grand old time." And I was like, "Well, that's kind of sweet. She's getting hopefully what the experience she wanted out of that."
Right. Yeah.
And I just look back and like, the lifestyles we envisioned were just different.
Yep. I think there are a lot of other things like that too. Like, do you want kind of like to have the house and the white picket fence and the kids and the dog, or are you more of a nomad, and you want to go see the world and maybe be more rootless? I mean, that could be a big lifestyle difference.
Well, I think the question is, are you headed in the same direction? Right. I actually, I'm dating someone new now. And before our first date, I was like, hey, I want to move across the country. Like, let's not go on a first date if you're not interested in that experience at all. Because like, why date for 6 months and then I leave? Like, it sounds miserable. And she was actually like, really? well, me too. And I was like, what?
Wow, okay.
And I was like, okay, well, maybe there's hope here. Like, we'll see how things play out. But it's like, she was open to that idea. And I was like, that's cool. So I knew that it was worth investing because we're not going to hit a roadblock where we're going to run into something. Like, it's really bad. I remember in my last relationship, I'd talk about, like, let's get married someday. Like, we talk about the future. And she'd freak out and didn't want that. And it's like, oh, we're just not headed in the same direction.
Yeah.
Whereas in the relationship I'm in now, it's like we're headed in the same direction. We want the same thing. We want to both go to the East Coast. It's like, that's pretty cool. That's meaningful to me.
Yeah, that's funny. Like, I think I actually even had that on my dating profile that that the person had to have a valid passport, because I'm like, I want to go and see the world. And if you're not into that, then don't bother to apply.
But you got to do the work beforehand to be like, what do I want?
You got to know that about yourself.
It goes back to introspection. Like,
it really
figure
does.
out what you want out of life, what you want, like where you're headed long term, and what you want on a day-to-day as an experience, because it can be fit is not only just like who you are, your quirks, your this, your that, what you value, but also what are your dreams, what are your hopes, what are your desires for the day-to-day and the future.
Yeah, for sure. Then there's also like the more of the day-to-day stuff, but it matters, and that's like how you approach finances. Are you a spender or are you a saver? Those things can be real deal breakers, and they affect your lifestyle.
Well, and how do you want to spend money? Do you want to spend money on experiences? Do you want to spend money on
stuff?
Yeah. Like, is having a nice car important to you? I know it's not to me.
Yeah.
I mean,
that was a disconnect in my last relationship.
Yeah. Like, I'll get a Toyota because that's the nicest of like the day-to-day cars, but I don't want a Lamborghini ever. Don't have any interest.
No interest. Yeah. No interest
I'd
at
rather
all.
go to Hawaii, man.
Me too.
Like,
or I'd rather retire early.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I'd rather work less.
Yeah.
And that's another thing too, is, I would rather work less and have time. Time is more important to me than money.
Or another one, it's really cool to watch you and my dad in the kitchen.
Yeah.
You have so much fun, like, cooking together. Like, you both enjoy that process of cooking. I can't imagine my dad being with someone who didn't appreciate cooking at the house, because he's always loved that. And I remember in his last marriage, he was with someone who couldn't cook, didn't really have an interest in cooking, and like, he would make these amazing meals, and they'd be like, oh, like, cool. And he felt unappreciated.
Yeah.
Like, he'd make this amazing chicken tiramisu soup or something, whatever, like, soup he gets at Thai food. He'd make that, and it was like,
oh yeah,
this is restaurant quality soup.
Yeah.
And I think he just never quite was appreciated for that. And I know now, like, you guys cook dinner together, and you cook mostly, and he takes pictures and watches you.
Yeah, he makes the drinks and puts on the music, and we've just found like a real ease on that.
But he loves it, man.
I do too. I so look forward to that at night. Just that little ritual,
That's so
we
cool.
turn on the music, he makes a drink, I start cooking, and he visits with me while we do that. We review our day, and it's wonderful. But another thing, though, that has become kind of an ongoing joke in our relationship is, in our previous relationships, we're with people that loved camping. Like,
oh my
God! Like,
my dad hates.
Oh my God! Yeah,
hates.
And that kind of gets back to a little bit of the compromise thing. Like, I always felt like, personally, I was trying to like it, and I do like being outside, but why the fuck would you want to sleep on the ground when you can sleep in a perfectly good bed? Exactly. See, I want to be outside. I love to go for long walks and stuff like that, but I don't want to sleep in a tent. That does not do anything for me.
You don't want to sleep on rocks. That's what my dad always says. He's like, I hate sleeping on rocks.
That. But, our previous partners were into it.
Yeah.
And so now we are just incredibly grateful that we see camping the same way.
And my poor mother, she still won't. It's like, I'm going to tell you, is it weird to talk about my mom to you? I don't know. I don't really care.
I don't know. I don't know her. I've met her once.
It's just sad. Like, for anybody out there, like, if you love camping, fucking date somebody who likes to camp. For the love of God. It's like, if it's a core value to you, find someone who also has that same core value. My mom continues to date people who don't care about camping. And I'm like, lady, like, please do yourself a favor. Find somebody who wants to do that shit so you are fulfilled in your goddamn relationship. It drives me nuts.
Yeah, and it's one thing, we've been talking
I can't believe I just ranted about that to you. Woo!
This is a weird dynamic, but whatever, it works. What I was going to say about that, though, is, it's not like you have to have every interest in common, right?
No.
But if something is super important, like if you are the type of person that wants to camp every weekend or as much as you possibly can, then that is a lifestyle, right?
Yeah.
That is a lifestyle for you. It's not something that maybe you would want to be apart from your partner all the time so that you could pursue this passion, right? So you probably want to find a partner that does that. But that being said, there could be other things where it doesn't really matter. Like it's okay to have your own interests that are separate from your partner too.
This is why I started the show with giving people permission. There's no template. There's no way. Again, there was a potential future where my ex-girlfriend and she went to bars, I stayed in, and it was fine. That's not the experience she wanted, but we could have done our own thing on nights and like, hey, she's going out to drink. It's Tuesday. I'm here to work and watch football. And would have been totally okay.
Right.
If we'd been okay with and comfortable with having our own interests and our own different dynamics. Now, again, ultimately, that's not what either one of us really wanted. I'm so fulfilled eating Chipotle on my couch watching a movie. That makes me so happy.
Same.
But again, like it's so important to like figure out what your core values are. But then you don't have to you don't want to date a clone of you,
right?
Necessarily.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, it doesn't all have to match. Because sometimes having differences helps us to grow too. Like if your partner's into something else and something you find interesting, then that could be a good opportunity.
Absolutely. Because if you have an open mind and you're willing to do new stuff, and now here's one thing I'm not open to at all. I hate rock climbing. It terrifies me, scares me.
Yep.
I'm afraid.
I just don't like heights. Yeah, no, thank you.
But like, what's something snowshoeing? Something I never thought I would like doing. Learned I loved it.
Yeah.
Really fun. It's cold. It's cool. Very enjoyable.
Yeah. And in my last relationship, I was introduced to cycling, not something that I ever really did, beyond being a 10-year-old on my bike on, riding it up and down the street.
Yeah.
But he was really into that. And I found that I liked it too. And it was something that we could do together. But I would have never come to that on my own.
Yeah.
Now, that being said, he also loves skiing, which I hated. Oh, my God. I so hated it because, it's just not my thing.
Yeah.
It's cold. It's snowy. It's fast. There's a lot of people. You have to worry about killing yourself. I mean, it just was not my thing.
Yeah.
And that was a real disappointment to him, actually. He thought that I should suck it up and learn to love it.
That's a bad fit.
That's a bad fit. Yep.
Have you ever been to Sun River, Oregon?
I have not.
Here's what I recommend. If you ever go to Sun River, and to anybody listening, I say the same thing. Go to Sun River, rent a place, and get a bike. And just ride around. Like, it's not cycling like you're the intense, like, oh, let's go ride fast. It's like just leisurely. There's so many bike trails, and you just leisurely ride around and like enjoy nature while you ride around in this, like, there's a bunch of loops and trails. It's just beautiful. And it was so cool. I never thought I would enjoy that as much as I did. I was like, oh, this is awesome. So if you ever get the chance, I don't know why I thought of that.
Things.
It's just cool. But there's that fine line between figuring out what's important to you and then being willing to try new stuff. And if it's not your thing, speak up and say it's not your thing, and then it might not be a good fit. Like, if you're 6 months into a relationship and their core values, like they love skiing and you don't, and they want you to be a skier, like, hey, if you want to be married to me for 25 years and you're always going to be mad that I hate skiing or not into it, that's going to be a problem. We might need to end things because you're never going to be quite satisfied with me, and I'm always going to feel in trouble that I don't like skiing.
Yeah, and that it's not okay to own that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Another one that comes to mind is parenting style. So if there are kids involved,
Yeah.
Are you one that believes that kids are better, seen, not heard? Are you kind of in the authoritarian or authoritative camp? I'm thinking of this couple that I used to know. We've lost touch since then, but they both agreed, and I'm glad they did. They were both from the military background, that their children should call them sir and ma'am.
Oh.
And
right.
like they were very regimented on things like that. And I'm just like, oh my God, I could not handle that. It's so not me.
Yeah.
So to make sure that you're on the same page on that kind of thing too.
One thing I think of is alcohol. When I was 12, my dad said, hey, have whatever you want. You want to have a drink? Come talk to me. Let's have a drink together. And honestly, it really made alcohol, because it was accessible, and it was, and not like, he wasn't like, hey, here, have this, go with your friends. He was just like, hey, like, if you're ever curious about alcohol, I'll give you a drink, we can drink together. And it really took away the taboo and it's a big deal. Like, I know a lot of my friends went to college and got just plastered over neck because they're like, we can finally have alcohol? And for me, I was like, well, I've always been able to have alcohol. It's fine. I know it pretty well. I know IPAs and shit. I don't need to get plastered drunk. And I actually built strong opinion sports while I was in college because I was free to do that. But if you're a parent and you don't agree on how to handle alcohol with a 12-year-old,
right,
could be a gigantic problem.
Yeah, I had that similar kind of experience with my parents growing up too, and I think it is effective. And I think, if you kind of step back from that and look at the bigger picture, if you have parents that are really really strict, for lack of a better word, they have lots of rules, lots of boundaries, then what is a kid going to do except for rebel against that? So the moment that they have any kind of freedom, they're likely to go off the rails.
Yeah. That's why I really gravitate towards my dad, because my dad was always the easier one and my mom was more authoritarian.
Yeah.
And she wouldn't even explain her rules. I was like, what? Why is this a rule? I don't understand this at all.
Yeah. And developmentally too, you've got to understand that kids go through those phases where they're pushing boundaries, but they have to learn to make decisions on their own, good decisions, hopefully.
Yeah.
And the only way for that to happen is you have to let them make their own decisions, not just make every decision for them.
I know a parent who, and it's a guy I really admire. It's one of my friend's dads, and I love the guy to death. And his whole philosophy was, he had 3 daughters and said, look, I'm going to let my kids make their own mistakes and their own decisions, and I'm going to help them learn from them. But they're going to learn on their own. And they all kind of turned out differently, but it really worked. I was like, I don't know. It was cool. I really appreciated that.
Yeah. So if you have a partner that isn't into parenting that same way, like they can't live without strict rules, that's going to be an issue.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then another one that kind of goes along with that is, I think, views about family involvement, meaning like extended family. So
holidays.
Right. How are you going to do holidays? Or are you going to do holidays? Like, because some people just generally don't want much contact with their families, and other people want to see them every Sunday dinner.
Yeah.
So, you got to make sure you're on the same page on that stuff too.
Yeah, if it's deeply important to see your family every Thanksgiving,
Yep.
and your partner's like, I don't give a fuck, that could be a giant problem.
Yep. Agreed.
What else? Do you have anything else on that list?
So maybe this is just speaking more to my age group, my ancient age group.
Ancients. Jesus. You're cane and you're hobbled back.
But another huge lifestyle thing that I think it's important to know headed into a relationship is what do your retirement dreams look like?
Oh, fuck.
Right?
Yeah.
So if someone's retirement dream is to travel the U.S. in an RV, and the other person isn't, no. Sounds terrible.
Like, here's my thought. Can you imagine, you're married for like, say, 30, 40 years. You get to retirement, and then your lives diverge, and you want totally different things.
Yeah.
How horrifying is that thought?
I know.
Fuck, man.
I know. Or you have people that have no intention of retiring, which actually I kind of fall into that camp. But and I think your dad does too. It's like, I don't want to have to work. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But I think it's really important to your mental health to be engaged in some kind of productive activity.
Well, if you love your job, I love making podcasts. I can record podcasts till I'm fucking 93 and dead.
Yeah.
Literally. And I hopefully do. I no problem with that. But if you're in a career you hate, I know my friend's mom can't wait to retire because she hates her job.
Yes. Oh, that's so sad, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, that's one other thing that I think is important to know up front on if you match.
But I think, your age group might relate to that. My age group better fucking pay attention to that.
Yeah, that's
because,
true too.
Again, that horrifying thought. You're married for 30 years, you get to 65, whatever that retirement age is.
The empty nest. And
yes, and then you're like, oh, fuck, you want to go to Europe? I want to go play golf.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh, flip. Well, good luck. Bye.
Yeah.
That sounds terrible.
Yep.
So, and look, you might change your mind in the course of 30 years, but at least have that conversation. Have that be an ongoing discussion, because the worst thing is you get to 30 years in and then you go, oh, fuck.
Yeah.
Whereas maybe year 10, you're like, hey, I'm starting to think I'm pulled in this direction. And then you can at least have time to prepare for it, to get your mind around it. Like, don't throw that on your partner at the retiring age. Let's go to Europe. I don't want to move to Europe.
Yep.
But if like 10 years ago you said, hey, you got 10 years to decide if you want to come to Europe or not. But maybe, there's a way different dynamic there.
Your dad and I were out to dinner with some friends, and we were talking about just this, and that's what made me think about putting it on this show, is they were sharing their retirement dream. And their retirement dream is to have a tiny trailer on a big plot of land.
Like a tiny home.
Like a tiny home. Seriously, a tiny home. And they have like something like 4 kids, something ridiculous. But they specifically wanted a place that was too small for their children to come visit. And I'm like, whoa, okay.
We're going to visit the kids. Fuck you, kids. Can't visit me.
Yeah, exactly.
Grandkids? Nah.
And I feel like I'm exactly the opposite. It's like, my dream is to have like the 4-house compound. So we each have like our own little space, but we can spend time together.
That's my dream. I was talking to my girlfriend about this. I was like, hey, how does this idea even sound to you? Like just throwing it out there. Cause I'm weird. I just like to what do you think? And she was like, that's a cool idea. Like imagine this thought. You and I have a house and then we have another house and like there's 4 houses here where it's a guest house. I don't even know, like an office. And then you live here with my dad and I live there with my girlfriend or I guess my wife at that point, hopefully.
Hopefully.
But like that sounds amazing. That's a cool way to retire or a cool way to just live our lives. I think it'd be awesome.
I do too. But that was smart of you though to think to float it by her.
Yeah. I was like, well, what do you think of this idea? And she was like, that sounds awesome. Can we live at the beach? And I was like,
hell yeah.
Please, let's live at the beach. Yeah, I love it. My hope for this is that when people hear us talk about, because this is the feedback I've gotten about the show, is when people say that when you guys talk about your experiences, it gets my mind working.
Yeah.
And the hope is people figure out what's important to them and what their lifestyle hopes are and what the dreams they have for their future is. Get your minds working. I really hope people, there's a guy named Caleb out there who said he's excited to listen to this episode because he sits down and he gets a notebook out while he listens to
That's
Desperately
cute.
Dating, and he like journals through the show. He's like, oh, this... I really hope that's what our show does, is gets people's minds working so they can figure out what's important. Because we're not telling people
what to do.
No, we're hopefully getting your mind going so you can figure out what's important to you and have the best possible experience you can have.
Yes, agreed.
Karyn, do you have anything else?
I think that's it.
Guys, thank you so very much for listening to the Desperately Dating Podcast, episode 10. Again, the tentative title for this episode is Lifestyle and Shared Dreams. Hope you have a great day. My name is Zach Shomler. That has been my wonderful and wise stepmom, Karyn, and have a great day.